January 24th meeting of Transportation Committee will now come to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call a roll?
Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Barker? Here. Mr. Baroth? Here. Chairman Colby?
Here.
Mr. Gamble? Here. Mr. Patterson's excused. Mrs. Valerio?
Is there anyone signed up to speak at this time?
There is not.
Is there anyone present that would like to address this committee at this time? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. You have the November 30th minutes of last year of the Transportation Committee before you. They stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk, could you please read the first one?
Referral 12-0033.
Moved by Mr. Salo, second by Barker. Any questions? Mr. Baroth.
Thank you. First, I'd just like to say thank you and welcome to another new year of the Transportation Committee. I'm very excited. I think we have one of the best committees around. I'll just point that out to you. And I'm not biased, I swear. I just had two basic questions about this particular referral. And the first was, through you to the administration, what is the bridge's current rating on the safety rating system, either by state or federal?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the condition rating is 4.7 rounded, and the sufficiency rating, federal sufficiency rating, is 42.6.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, one last question is: given a total budget of $372,000, am I correct to understand that the county commitment's approximately $18,000, which is 5%?
Through the chair, that's correct. 5% will be our contribution.
And that would be about $18,000, correct?
Yes, thereabouts. Okay. I didn't do the actual math, but yeah, thereabouts.
Okay, ballpark.
1980, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those approve, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
Referral 12-0034.
Moved by Mr. Parker, second by Mary Valerio. Any questions? Mr. Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, I have a similar question, and that's regarding the 5% county commitment. Is that given the approximately $4.375 million budget cost, is the county's commitment approximately $220,000?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, thank you. And would it be correct, and this gets a little more significant, is the Water Authority commitment approximately $525,000?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. Then I would, through the chair to the administration, I'll direct you to the second page, where it states that the estimated amount to be reimbursed to the county by the Water Authority is $484,000, which is about 11% of the total project cost. And I was wondering, why is it the county is, if it's only expected to pay 5% of the project cost, why is it so high? Why is it double?
Through the chair, you want it? Would you repeat that one again for me?
According to, through the chair to the administration, according to the budget, the county's commitment is approximately $220,000. However, we are also stating that we expect a reimbursement of $484,000, which is double, more than double, actually. And I did not understand that.
Through the chair, what that was showing, and I had given you approximately what the Water Authority was at one point, but the Water Authority will be reimbursing us for approximately 12% of the cost of the project, of which is that 484 or somewhere around 500,000, and then the other 83% will be federal and state aid, and then we'll have 5%. Does that answer your question?
So, in effect, we're paying, through the chair to the administration, we're paying both our amount and the Water Authority's amount, and they're going to pay us back their amount.
Oh, through the chair, yes. We'll have an agreement with the, and that's what this referral is, to authorize an agreement or contract with the Water Authority where we will front the money, and we'll get money, actually 75% of the construction costs and all of the design costs we'll get once we go to award the project. And then we'll get the rest of the remaining 25% for construction and the remaining inspection costs for their water authority share once the job is complete.
Through the chair to the administration, at some point in the relatively near future, could you give me that in writing, please? There's no way I'm going to write that all down. I'm really a little confused because this is the first time I've actually, well, one of the first, I think it's the first time I've actually seen such a inclusion in the referral that we actually get a reimbursement that's actually cited in the referral.
Well, through the chair, no, that we've done that on several projects. In fact, the one just down the street in Perrington on Jefferson Avenue, there's a significant contribution by both the Water Authority as well as the town of Perrington, and they are contributing to that. Now, we have to have the bonding for it, but we do get reimbursed for it, and we get some of it reimbursed right in the beginning of construction, so we do not have to go out and borrow all of the amount. And our finance director can go into that borrowing better, but no, we've had many projects that we have a share by another, whether it's the Water Authority or a municipality that has a share of it, and it's part of our project. It just makes sense to have it part of the project while our construction's going on, so we bid it all and award it all as part of our construction. It's actually a routine thing. Most of my projects probably have, especially highway projects, have a municipal or some water authority or municipality share.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item. Whoop. Any opposed?
It's just for the, thank you. Next referral. I know, I'm scared now.
Okay.
Referral 12-0035.
Moved by Mary, second by Anatola. All those in favor, or any questions? Legislator Broth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair of the administration, as I try to edify myself about this committee, and in fact, I think I've been working at it pretty diligently, I did have a question regarding something referred to as close-fit curate in place liners. And my question is, I understand what they are, but my question is really, how long are they expected to last? What's the lifespan of those?
Through the chair, I don't have the specifics on that. I can find that out, but I would say 40+ years.
Okay.
We're not anticipating it to, this is a rehabilitation project, and this was a better thing to do than to replace it, because the pipes are still adequately that they can accommodate the cured in place liner.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I was just wanting to make sure it was something 20+ or so, and I firmly expected that to be the answer, but I just have not been exposed to that before. And then I did have an additional question, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Through the chair of the administration, and I was curious, it says permanent erosion control measures. Are we talking about cement barriers or such, or is that something different in mind?
Through the chair, I believe it's where we'll put embankment and stone near the pipe itself, so that we don't have the sides and the slope erode. Okay. That's what that's for.
Thank you. And finally, given a total budget of $541,000, I assume I'm correct to assume that our county commitment's about $27,000?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Referral 12-0036.
Moved by Mr. Ansello and second by Barker. Any questions? Mr. Broth.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to ask some questions.
That's what we're here for.
Excellent. Better now than the full edge, definitely. So through the chair of the administration I was curious, when was this project originally referred to this body and passed by this body? Last year?
Through the chair, this actually for several years, and I don't have the actual CIP when we started it, and it's called, in the CIP, it's just called a highway rehabilitation program. And this is the first year, 2012, when we'll start a design, but then we'll have various roads that will be rehabilitated over the coming years, and this is the first road that's going to be rehabilitated. Whereas the other projects are more reconstruction projects. This is just a rehabilitation. But it's been on for the CIP for several years. You just wouldn't know you'd have to read the description in the CIP for the program of which roads are going to be done. And they're all in the description.
So through the chair of the administration, am I correct to then understand that this particular program is something that will be likely, anyhow, to be updating and referring back to in the years to come? It's an ongoing program, in other words.
Through the chair, right now, we have dollars in it through the approved CIP of 2017, that it's in the planned program.
Okay. And then my other question was, were there any other consultants considered? And it says they were, but who were the other consultants considered for this project, the design consultants?
Through the chair, we had asked last year, we had in the Rochester Business Journal, I believe it was, we asked consultants to submit interest, and then out of those that submitted interest, and there was, I think, over 20 that submitted interest, we shortlisted that based on various criteria down to 9 firms, and then 8 of those 9 firms submitted proposals, not fees or anything, and then we went through our quality-based selection criteria to evaluate. So it ended up 8 were totally evaluated, but there was 20-something that were evaluated early on before we shortlisted.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, and do you have a list of these 8 firms?
Through the chair, yes, I do. Do you want to know who they were?
Yes, I would like to know. Thank you.
Okay. Right now?
If you have it in front of you, sure. I mean, or you can just mail it to me. That's fine. Either way.
Through the chair, the firms that were, the 8 firms was Popley that were recommended award, CNS, Hunt, Stantec, Kostich.
With a K?
C, Kostich Engineering with a C, Barton LaJudas, Perrone Engineering, and Erdman Anthony.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Referral 12-0037.
Moved by Mr. Barker, second by Mrs. Valerio. Any questions? Mr. Broth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair of the administration, do you want to check, this is essentially a similar contract setup as the prior referral, correct?
Through the chair, yes, but it was specifically for the expressing interest for a culvert, and again, we had over 20 that were interested, shortlisted them down to 9, and then got proposals and did evaluations, longer, more involved quality-based selections on the 9 firms.
Thank you. And
Different firms.
They are different firms.
Some of them were different. Some of them might have been the same, but some of them were different.
Do you happen to have them in front of you right now?
Sure.
If you could.
Besides Lou Engineers, Larson, Stantec, T.Y. Lin, Kostich again, Ravi Engineering, Clark Patterson, Lee, Barton and LaJudas, and Marathon Engineering.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Referral 12-0038.
Moved by Mrs. Valerio, second by Anisello. Any questions? Mr. Gamble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Why is such a large increase? 300,000 is about 20%.
Through the chair, a couple things happened here different than what we'd originally planned when we put this program and project into the CIP. First, there is actually two bridges very close to each other. And during the design, we asked a consultant to look to see whether both bridges were needed. So there was some additional work that was needed to be done by the consultant, but then that also, what we decided to do is we could remove one of the bridges, and we're going to put a pipe, but there was additional cost than just a normal replacement of the one bridge. We're doing work at the other. Also involved was the town of Greece would like to have a sidewalk out there. Part of it is part of the project and is eligible for federal aid. Part of it is a betterment, similar to what I had said to Legislator Baroth before, that there is other municipalities. We have that comment on many of our projects, that there's a municipality who's got to share. So there was some additional cost related to that, and that's driving up the cost. But the good news is that it will. We still remain to have only 5% share of the federal of the cost, and the feds and the state are paying 95% of the cost.
Through the chair, it seems to be missing like 600,000.
It's through the chair, 600,000. We're asking for an increase of 300,000 in the CIP.
Through the chair,
Yes.
it said the total estimated project cost is now $1,519,000. The increase is $300,000, but down here in the bottom it says in the amount of $859,517.30.
Gotcha. All right, I'm with you now,
Okay.
Legislator. The difference would be there's other costs besides the construction costs. Some design costs I already took into account. We have design as well as the inspection cost and our own in-house cost, and then paying for the right-of-way. So there's other costs besides the $859,000 cost for the construction.
So the 15's total cost for the whole project, even stuff that's already been expended or approved by
Right.
different referrals.
Correct. We anticipate it will be no more than the $1.5 million, 517 that we're asking. As you combine the design cost, the right-of-way cost, our administration cost, as well as the inspection, and then some construction contingency, that adding all those up, plus the construction cost, will come to that $1.5 million, which is $300,000 more than we have in the total CIP now.
Chair, thank you very, very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Referral 12-0039.
Moved by Mr. Anisello and second by Mr. Barker. Any questions? Mr. Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm assuming no one else. Okay.
I looked first.
Excellent. I feel bad, though. I'm kind of, okay. All right. Through the chair of the administration, I was curious as to these four bridges. What criteria is used to select these four bridges?
Through the chair, every 4 years, my staff goes through and looks at the condition of the bridges and the need for any preventive maintenance, as well as the state looks at them every 2 years. And we had determined, from a preventive maintenance standpoint, that we had some bridges that would qualify for federal money, and there was an opportunity last year. They asked for projects to be submitted, and we did submit some of our projects for preventive maintenance for federal money, and we were successful. But you look at things that, when you're doing these, it's more of like what the joints are. If there are any joints, is there some minor concrete work that needs to be done? Might be some bearings, that how the concrete sits, the beams sit on the pad. There are projects that are not something that needs to be rehabilitated, extensive work, or for reconstruction, But not all of our bridges are in this position, but we, as well as some other counties, have some in that case, and so we're able to submit them. So we go through and we look at anything that we could have done and we submit, and then we have a future year in our program, we have another 6 that we're going to get money for as well, if you look in a later year of the CIP, for some preventive maintenance. Maybe a little bit more extensive than this. We might be doing some painting on them, but that type of work.
Thank you. And through the Chair of the Administration, you did predict my next question, which was, I assume there was other bridges in line for similar funding. You mentioned 4 now and 6 coming up. Are there other bridges that we currently have that fit this general criteria of needing some maintenance but not rehabilitation necessarily?
Through the chair, certainly we have 175 bridges that everyone needs some type of maintenance, but none of them need to this point where we could justify federal dollars. It's work that my crew is doing on their own with county dollars.
Okay, so through the Chair of the Administration, then, for those that were eligible, we applied for all those that were eligible.
Through the chair, I apply for every time I have the opportunity to submit for federal funding, and they meet the criteria for federal funding, I submit them.
Okay, thank you. And through the Chair of the Administration, I did have a finance question, and that was, there's a $94,850 engineering contract, and I wanted to know, was that included within the total cost account of $652,000, or was that separate?
Through the chair, make sure I understand your question. Was the design cost that we're identifying with Barton LaJudas of $94,000 plus, is that part of the $652,000?
Correct.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. And finally, and this is more of a procedural question, and I will defer the Chair's judgment, but given that the Monroe County Planning Board has not yet considered this project, it's due to do so on January 26, why is this before us now?
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. Traditionally, we get the referrals introduced into the legislature for your consideration prior to the full legislature meeting, at which final approval would be granted. The planning board will review this matter and make its recommendation. That allows it all to be handled during one legislative cycle. And we have done this before with some other referrals where
they're meeting this week. Yeah,
the planning board meets later this week.
So if it doesn't get approved there, then that would have to be brought up at the...
That was essentially I was going to defer to you on that one. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Referral 12-0046.
Moved by Mr. Barker, second by Mary Valerio. Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, to the administration, is there any reason that we're including 2 parcels with delinquent taxes?
Through the chair, I'm Art English. I'm the county surveyor and the supervisor of rights-of-way. The property is needed for the project. We need to improve a turning radius there, and we need to get the sidewalk in. So we've pared down the project as much as we can to take as little property as we need to. But in order to progress the project, we need to acquire this property. Out of the 60 or so property owners, this is an estate that has not yet been probated, and the taxes are in arrears. We're trying to work with the heirs to get this resolved. So we're hopeful that the taxes will be forthcoming. But this is another one of these situations where if we don't provide payment to the property owner as a requirement of the federal process for this right-of-way acquisition under the eminent domain procedure law, we won't be able to get right-of-way clearance. And if we can't get clearance, then we can't go out to bid, and so the whole project gets delayed and deterred. So if we don't pay it, we're going to be shooting ourselves in the foot. You know, the amount of back taxes is about $6,000. We're paying them a little over $2,000. So we've, pardon me? Right. No, I know. So we just have to include it in the project. So.
Through the chair, if I could just add on, I guess different than if we were doing how I looked at it, and when Art and I talked about it, is if we're doing a contract for somebody, we wouldn't want to give a contract to somebody if they owed us money, we'd want them to pay, certainly. Here, what I looked at is, and I don't know if this, I don't think this is the case, but we have to go follow the eminent domain procedure law, and we got to deposit the money, and we can't get right-of-way certification. If we don't get right-of-way certification, we can't bid the project. If we can't bid the project, we can't build the project. So by someone not paying a small amount of taxes could hold our whole project up, and that might be what they want. I'm not saying that's the case here at all, but that's what someone could do and say, well, this is how I can stop a project by not paying the taxes. And we're out here, we've had this on a schedule to do. We really need to do the work out there, so whether we can pay them and have them pay us somehow, I don't know how the whole tax thing works, but that's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mrs. Valerio.
Will there be any foreseen, through the chair, issues though with probate, or, because I know someone recently couldn't close on a house because there was an issue of jumping the gun before the estate was settled.
Through the chair, Neha Stowe for the Law Department. It's our understanding at this time that the heirs they haven't filed the filing fees yet with the surrogates court, so the estate hasn't made it to probate. However, the attorneys that we previously spoke with no longer represent the estate, so we're trying to reach out to the current attorneys that are handling the matter. At this point, unfortunately, we just haven't been able to get a status check from them, but we're hoping that in the next couple of days we'll hear from them if they filed with the surrogates court.
Thank you. And what's the timeline that you anticipate to start the project?
Through the chair, we're looking to get right-of-way certification, and then we'll go to advertise sometime in the next month or so. That's why we're coming to the board or the legislature now to ask for a request to advertise, and then we will, and then start the work this year.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Broth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, through the Chair of the Administration, could you repeat how much taxes are owed by the estate? I did not catch that number.
I believe it's 6,000 is what they said.
6,000? Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
They ain't paid for the 6,000 that they already owe.
Through the chair, I believe it's the last 3 years of taxes. It's approximately $6,000.
Okay. Through the administration to the chair, I had a somewhat different question. I want to make sure. I assume this is in regards to referral 34. Same budget line and everything. I'm assuming that's the case.
Through the chair, it's the same project, correct?
Yeah, correct. And then, if so, the total amount that we were outlaying for this is $121,000, 100. Is that part of the total budget cost of $3,804,000?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Referral 12-0049.
Moved by Mrs. Valerio, second by Anicello. Any questions? See no questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any unfinished business to become before this committee at this time? There are no unfinished business to come before the January 24th meeting of Transportation stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Transportation Committee is scheduled for February 28th of 2012.